You're not a good person. A good person would be happy for me finding my soulmate," she said. I walked away. Now her soulmate is gone, and she's crying in front of my new life. Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. Thanks. It's funny, the things you remember. I can still see the little den in the wall by the front door, the one I made trying to get a new bookshelf into our apartment. Claire had fussed about it for a week, then forgotten it entirely. I hadn't. I'd planned to patch it up right before we moved into a house. A house. We used to talk about it like it was a given, an inevitability. Something solid. I was the solid one. The one who worked a steady job in software development. The one who cooked dinner. The one who remembered her sister's birthday and her dog's allergy medicine. I was the rock. Claire was the ocean. Or at least, that's what she called herself. A wild, artistic soul who couldn't be contained. It was part of her charm at first. The way she'd impulsively buy a plane ticket to a new city, or stay up all night painting, or convince me to go to a music festival with a single text. I anchored her, and she gave my life a little chaos. It was a good balance. For a long time, it was a great balance. But over the past few months, the balance had shifted. Her artistic soul had become an excuse for irresponsibility. My stability had become predictable. She started staying out late, not answering calls, and her texts got shorter and shorter. When I'd ask what was wrong, she'd get defensive. "Nothing's wrong, Leo. You're just overthinking things. Why do you always have to analyze everything?" she'd say with a dismissive wave of her hand, like my concern was an annoyance, not a sign of love. The emotional distance was the first crack in the dam, and the water was pouring in. It felt like she was already gone, a ghost in her own life, and I was the one left trying to hold on to her hand. The physical betrayal came next. It was messy, public, and utterly disrespectful. One of my coworkers, a quiet guy named Mark, sent me a screenshot of an Instagram story. It was a picture of Claire at a bar, laughing, her head resting on someone's shoulder. The caption was a quote from a poem about finding your muse. The muse was Liam, a mutual friend, or at least I thought he was a friend. He was a local poet, all skinny jeans and pretentious quotes, and Claire had been gushing about his deep, profound thoughts for weeks. I tried to dismiss it, to tell myself it was just a picture. A week later, another one. This time, it was a close-up of their hands intertwined, a bracelet I'd bought Claire clearly visible on her wrist. The caption was even worse. "Finally found a soul that speaks my language." The air went out of my lungs. I didn't get angry. Not yet. I just felt hollow. The kind of hollow that comes with the deep, sickening knowledge that something you thought was real has been fake all along. The last piece of the puzzle clicked into place, and it wasn't a pretty picture. The late nights, the short texts, the dismissive attitude. It wasn't a sign of her being a free spirit. It was a sign of her moving on, of her already having one foot out the door. The whole time she was in my life, she was looking for a replacement, and now she thought she'd found it. It was a humiliation by 1,000 quiet cuts, all before she ever said a single word. I didn't confront her about the pictures. I didn't need to. I knew. Instead, I waited. I knew she'd come home eventually, and I wanted to see if she'd have the decency to say anything. She came in around 11, humming to herself, smelling faintly of cheap beer and something else, something that wasn't our laundry detergent. She dropped her keys on the little table by the door, and the jingle of the metal was the only sound in the apartment for a long moment. I was sitting on the couch, the lights off, just the glow from the street lamp outside casting a shadow on my face. She finally saw me, and her humming stopped. "Oh," she said, her voice small and tight. "You're still up?" "Yeah," I replied, my voice calm, almost emotionless. "Couldn't sleep." She walked over and sat on the other end of the couch, a solid 10 feet of cushions between us. She didn't look at me, just stared at the blank TV screen. The silence stretched out, thick and heavy. I finally broke it. "Is everything okay, Claire?" She sighed, a dramatic, performative sigh that I'd come to hate. "Leo, what is with you lately? You're so heavy." "Am I?" I asked, my voice still level. "Or am I just asking you a simple question?" She finally turned to face me, and her eyes were hard. The kind of hardness that says she's already made up her mind, and nothing you say will change it. "Look, I can't do this anymore. You're just so predictable. So safe. I told you, I need to live. I need passion and excitement, and honestly, you don't have that in you." I just looked at her, and in that moment, I saw her for what she was, Not the free spirit I fell in love with, but a selfish person who was using me as a comfortable stepping stone. I found someone who understands me, she continued, her voice gaining confidence, a smug, self-righteous edge creeping in. Someone who sees the world the way I do. He's an artist. He's wild. He's everything you're not. The words didn't sting as much as they would have a few weeks ago. The emotional distance she'd created had prepared me for this moment. And is he your muse? I asked, the words a low murmur. Her eyes widened for just a fraction of a second, a flicker of panic. She hadn't expected me to know. But just as quickly, the smugness returned, more potent than before. She leaned forward, a cruel smile playing on her lips, and delivered the knockout blow. You're not a good person. A good person would be happy for me finding my soulmate. I didn't beg. I didn't scream. I didn't ask her to reconsider. I just absorbed the words, letting them hang in the air between us. The sheer, unadulterated unfairness of the statement was breathtaking. She had betrayed me, humiliated me, and now she was twisting the knife by telling me that my pain was a sign of my own moral failure. She was the one who was breaking a promise, but I was the one who was supposed to be happy about it. I stood up, walked into the bedroom, and picked up a bag. I began to pack, starting with the essentials, my laptop, my passport, my wallet, a few changes of clothes. She watched me, her smug smile finally fading as she realized I wasn't going to fight. I wasn't going to have a dramatic scene. I was just leaving. What are you doing? She asked, her voice laced with a new kind of panic. I'm going to stay with a friend, I said, zipping the bag closed. Leo, don't be dramatic. I just told you what's going on. We can talk about this later. There's nothing to talk about, I said, walking to the door. You've made your choice. You're happy. I'm happy for you. I hope you and your soulmate have a wonderful life together. And I walked out the door, leaving the silence, the dent in the wall, and her gaslighting behind me. I didn't turn back. The next few months were a strange kind of purgatory. The first few weeks were the hardest. I had left the apartment with nothing but my laptop bag, so I was staying on a friend's couch, the one he had in his spare room. The silence was my choice, a fortress I built to protect myself from the chaos she had left behind. I threw myself into my work. My manager, a sharp, no-nonsense guy named David, noticed the shift in my focus. I was the first one in the office and the last one to leave. I was building new frameworks, streamlining old code, and generally making myself invaluable. The focus was a relief, a way to channel the energy that would have otherwise gone into mourning a relationship that was built on a lie. My life became a simple, beautiful routine of work, the gym, and quiet nights spent reading or watching a movie with my friend. I learned to enjoy my own company again. I found a small apartment, just for me, and decorated it with a sense of peace and purpose. The dent in the old wall was a distant memory. Claire's world, on the other hand, was built on sand. Word began to trickle back to me through an old friend from college who wasn't in our mutual circle. He'd hear things from people who knew people. At first, it was the usual honeymoon phase stuff. Liam and Claire were everywhere. New art shows, pretentious coffee shops, and late-night parties. They were the it couple, the free spirits who had broken free from the shackles of convention. I would be lying if I said I didn't feel a pang of something akin to pity. I knew Liam wasn't a good guy. He was a charlatan, a man who fed on the energy of people like Claire. And then, just as suddenly as it began, it all started to fall apart. The first sign was when Liam's ex-girlfriend started posting on Instagram. She didn't name Claire, but the post was clearly directed at her. It was a cryptic quote about being a muse for a month and a cautionary tale for a lifetime. Then came the comments, a whole slew of them, from other women who had been muses for Liam. The facade of the artistic, tortured soul came crashing down, revealing him to be a serial cheater who used women for their connections or emotional support before discarding them for his next muse. The next bit of news was that Liam's art career wasn't as lucrative as he'd claimed. He was in debt, and he was getting a reputation for being an emotionally manipulative mooch. He had been charming and charismatic, but underneath it all, he was just a user, looking for someone to fund his artistic lifestyle. The final, ironic blow came a month later. Liam left Claire for another woman, someone who he called his new light, his star. He dumped her in a public post, framing it as a necessary evil for his own artistic growth. The words were almost a carbon copy of the ones she had used to break up with me. She had left me for a soulmate, only to be discarded by him in the exact same cruel fashion. My college friend sent me a screenshot of one of her latest posts, a vague, sad-looking quote about losing a part of herself. There was no mention of Liam, no mention of me. Just a lonely, desperate plea for sympathy from the online world that she had built her identity around. The irony wasn't lost on me. She had wanted to find her soulmate. Instead, she had found her mirror. It started subtly. A week after her public humiliation, my phone, which I had long since kept silenced for her number, buzzed with a series of text messages. The first was a generic, innocuous one. "Hey, just saw a pic of our old coffee shop. Hope you're doing well." I didn't reply. I didn't even feel a flicker of anything. It was like getting a spam text. 2 days later, a second message. "I'm sorry for how things ended. I was in a bad place." The apology was self-serving, still framing her actions as a result of her own emotional state. I still didn't reply. Then the desperation started to bleed through. I know I was wrong about a lot of things. I've been doing some self-reflection, and I miss our friendship. She was still trying to use her twisted logic, trying to worm her way back in with a soft, safe word like friendship, when she had clearly made it impossible. When the texts got no response, she moved on to the next tactic, weaponizing our mutual friends. A couple of them, who had clearly heard her side of the story, tried to intervene. My phone rang one afternoon, a name I hadn't seen in months flashing on the screen. Emily, one of Claire's closest friends. I answered, my voice polite but guarded. "Hey Leo, it's been a while. Look, I'm calling because I'm really worried about Claire. She's going through a really tough time, and, well, she really misses you." "I'm sorry to hear that," I said, the words as hollow as they were polite. "She says she's really changed, that she sees how much you gave up for her. She just needs a friend right now, someone to talk to. She's really sorry about everything with Liam, and, I'm not the person she should be talking to about that." I replied, a calm finality in my tone. "My life has moved on. I wish her the best, but I can't be a part of her life." Emily's voice became more insistent, tinged with a little of Claire's own manipulative energy. "But she needs you. She's all alone, Leo. You were the one who was always there for her. You were the stable one. Can't you just be a friend?" "No," I said, a little firmer this time. "I can't. And if you're a true friend to her, you'll encourage her to find help on her own, not to lean on a person she hurt." I hung up the phone before she could respond, blocking her number too. She even got my mom on the phone. My mom called me, sounding a little flustered. "Honey, Claire called me. She sounds so sad. She said she made a terrible mistake. Are you sure you can't just talk to her?" "Mom, I'm fine," I told her. "I've moved on. You don't need to worry about me. Claire is an adult, and she needs to deal with her choices herself. Please don't call me about her again." The final attempt at reconciliation came a few days later, a call from an unknown number that I foolishly answered. It was her. Her voice was raw and ragged, not the smug, confident voice I remembered. It was the voice of a person at the end of her rope. "Leo, please. I need to see you. I'm so sorry. He used me. Everything he said was a lie. I was stupid. Please, just talk to me." "No," I said, cutting her off. "I have nothing to say to you." I hung up, and that was the last I heard from her directly. Until tonight. I was at a work gala, a big event for the tech firm. I had just been made a partner, and my new team was all congratulating me. I had on a new suit, and my life felt a million miles away from the chaos and insecurity of the past year. I was talking to Sarah, the new woman in my life. She's smart, funny, and grounded. We were laughing about a mutual friend when my laughter died in my throat. Across the crowded room, standing alone by a drink station, was Claire. She looked different. Her clothes were a little disheveled, her makeup was smudged, and she had a hollow look in her eyes. The confidence that had once radiated from her was gone, replaced by a desperate kind of sadness. She saw me, her eyes locking onto mine, and she started walking toward me. Sarah, sensing the shift in my mood, followed my gaze. "Everything okay?" she asked, a gentle hand on my arm. "Yeah," I said, looking her in the eyes. "It is." Claire reached me, her face a mess of emotions. She looked past me, at Sarah, a flicker of raw, undisguised envy in her eyes before she returned her gaze to me. "Leo," she whispered, her voice cracking. "I need to talk to you. Alone. We're having a conversation," I said calmly, gesturing to Sarah. "And I don't think there's anything left to say." "Please," she pleaded, her voice getting louder. "I was so wrong. I was so stupid. He wasn't who I thought he was. I want to be your friend again. The way we used to be." I felt her reach for my arm, but I subtly took a step back. I looked at her, not with anger, but with a complete and total lack of emotional connection. She was a stranger to me. I took a deep breath, and I chose my words carefully. I didn't want to hurt her, but I also had no desire to lie. Claire, I began, my voice quiet but firm. I don't know who you are anymore. The person you left, the one who was a victim of your actions, he's gone. That experience, it was a catalyst for me. It showed me what I deserved, what I needed to build for myself. I learned a lot about what good truly means and what it looks like in a relationship. I built a new life, a good life, a peaceful life. And in this new life, there is no place for you. You don't have the power to ruin it. You never did. She stared at me, her mouth slightly ajar, finally understanding the depth of my detachment. She wasn't just losing me. She was losing the person she had betrayed. I didn't hate her. I didn't feel sorry for her. I just didn't feel anything for her at all. She was an empty space in my rearview mirror. Please, she choked out, tears welling in her eyes. I'm begging you. Just give me one more chance. We could have a new beginning. I looked at Sarah, who was watching with quiet understanding. I then turned back to Claire, meeting her gaze directly. The person you wanted me to be happy for? The person you said was your soulmate? You got him. You got your artistic, exciting, unpredictable life. And now you see that it's just a lonely, selfish one. My life is right here. My peace is right here. I don't need a new beginning. I'm already in the middle of a great life, and you're not in it. I turned, took Sarah's hand, and walked away. The last image I have of Claire is of her standing alone, watching me walk back to my new life, finally understanding what she had lost. The silence that followed was not one of sadness, but of utter, complete peace. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. What do you think about this story? Share it in the comments.